Hello, everyone. Welcome to our January State TA Day webinar. Can everyone see the agenda on the screen? I have two up, and I'm not quite sure which one I have pulled over.
The
No.
agenda, no.
The agenda's
Just
not
the
there.
webinar one?
Yeah.
Okay. And can someone that's not a presenter let me know if they can hear me? Let's see. Thanks, Vanjie, Lisa. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first presenter today. We have Elizabeth Navarez from our Colorado Shines CCR&R call center. Go ahead, Elizabeth, and I will send you the screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Let's see. Okay, there we go.
There it is. Perfect. So let me go ahead and get my presentation going. All right, is my screen visible?
It is, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello to you all. Thank you so much for this space to talk about our neck of the woods, our services that we provide at Colorado Shines Childcare Referrals at Mile High United Way. So it's been quite a while since we last connected, and so I thought that it might be fun and it might be a good idea to give an overview of the services that we provide, just so that you have an idea of how we work, what is it that we do for families, and what are our goals. So let's get started. So serving our communities. So we take pride in serving our communities. We really love receiving those phone calls and helping families with their different needs. And the success of our work involves different levels of service. So we provide customized options for childcare for families, and this is obviously through the Colorado Shines database. And also our navigators have in-depth conversations with families about their needs, what they're specifically looking for. So the list that we give to them, it's not a general list. It's actually a customized list based off of their schedules, what they're looking for, the ages of the kiddos. So it's very, very targeted to families so that we can really hone in on the needs that they have in terms of childcare. We also advocate on behalf of families. So we provide additional support. Number one, finding childcare availability, which is something that is very challenging nowadays, especially with COVID. So this is a service that we've actually had for quite some time. We initially learned from our clients that it wasn't helpful to receive a list of childcare providers with phone numbers. For some families, it was quite a challenge reaching out to childcare providers and figuring out who has availability and who doesn't. And so we took it upon ourselves to really provide this service, advocate on their behalf, and make sure that their lists were working for them, not just by providing general information about the provider, but also us reaching out and helping our clients find availability. So that is one way that we can advocate for them. We also brainstorm with our clients on other options. It may be that what they're looking for is not really out there, may not be available at the moment. And so we try to brainstorm with them and see what else is out there that they can consider as an option. That way we are at least providing to families an option for a next step. And they know where to go, and they have a little bit of guidance in terms of what to do based off of their needs. And we also seek additional answers. We seek additional support depending on what they're needing. It may be that the family is struggling with their kiddo. It may be that the kiddo has special needs, or it's something completely different out of the box. And so we try really hard to advocate on their behalf and see what else we can find for them. And then finally, we support families via 211 resources. I love this. I think this is really helpful. This is the beauty of our program. So not only our navigators are experts inside of childcare. Not only can they provide referrals for childcare, but if they see that additional need, if they see that our clients are struggling with rent payment assistance, with utilities, maybe they need food, our navigators are experts navigating the 211 side of our service, and they can provide those additional referrals. So it's wraparound service that we are providing to our families that not only focuses on childcare, but it focuses on providing basic needs and providing that guidance for families that targets basic needs. Um, and so, search for childcare can be a daunting task. And so we want to make sure that our navigators are experts in guiding families, listening to families' needs, and providing options for them. Ultimately, our goal is to advance kiddos and families' success. So, connecting with us. We love to connect with our families, and we know that every need is different out there in terms of connection. So we want to make sure that we have a lot of options for them. So, of course, the first one is via phone. We have 3 different phone numbers that they can reach out to us. Number 1, the Colorado Shines 1-877 number. We also have the local 303 10-digit phone number. And then if families want it, they can also dial 211 and anywhere in the state, and it will connect to our childcare navigators. We also have the online option. So by going to our website, families can access our chat service, and then they can also access our online intake form. It may be that families don't have 10, 15 minutes to connect with us, go through what they're needing inside of childcare, but they can absolutely go online, fill out the form, send it to us, and our navigators can give them a customized list of childcare navigators within 1 business day, if not in some cases sooner than that. We also have text. We have the keyword childcare referrals to 898-211. Easy process. They can just take that keyword, and one of our navigators will connect with them, gather basic information about their needs, and then we can send a list on their way. And then last but not least, we have email. We have our email address here, and this is a really good way for families to connect with us, ask questions, seek further guidance. Whatever the case may be, we have this email address available for them. Our services are confidential and free of charge. And we have customized licensed childcare referrals, as I said before. We really want to make sure that we target their needs. And we offer consumer education related to childcare. So not only are we providing a list, but our navigators are experienced in answering questions, making sure that the family has the appropriate information to search for the right childcare provider and make an educated decision. And then advocacy. So we want to make sure that families are successful with childcare, that kiddos are thriving, and so we do advocate for families depending on their needs. Provider availability support. So recently, well, not recently, I think it's been in place for a little bit. We launched a text line for childcare providers, and this is super exciting. It's for providers to let us know about their availability. So this is a simple way that providers can use so that we and providers are connected in terms of availability. And so when calling providers to find availability, it can be a little bit challenging getting a hold of providers. I know they're super busy taking care of kiddos, and so this is a good option for them just to let us know what they have available. So simply they can just text CC Open to 898-211, and an automatic message will be sent out to them asking how many spaces they have, whether or not they offer CCAP, what are the ages within those open spaces. And so it's an easy way for providers to connect with us. So I really ask you to help us support families with their childcare search. This is a wonderful way that you can help us support families when we are connecting with them and helping them with their search. So please encourage your childcare providers to text us their availability. You're more than welcome to use this little graphic that I've created so that you can send it in your newsletters, in email threads, whatever the case may be, so that they know what to do. This is a powerful way to have real-time data on openings. And so this benefits providers and families at the same time. So it's super, super beneficial. So I highly, highly ask you to please help us support our families. And so I also wanted to reach out to you and ask, how can we strengthen our partnerships? The partnership between CCRNRs and our work. How can we work together so that we can support our families better? That is the ultimate goal that we both have. I'm sure that you are very invested in families' well-being as we are. And so I just wanted to reach out and see if you have any ideas on how we can work together a little bit better to make sure that we support our families. And so we may not have the time right now to talk through that, but please feel free to give me a call, send me an email. I am here. I would love to talk to you and see what else we can do so that we can support our communities better. So that is pretty much it. I really thank you for the support that you give to your communities and your childcare providers. I look forward to connecting with you. I look forward to making sure that communities are well supported, that families are well supported, and that looking forward for our team to continue giving that help and guidance to our families. The last piece that I have, it's a personal announcement. So I'd like to share with you all that I am pregnant. Currently 9 months pregnant, so I'm in the last home stretch, and so just so you know, I will be going on maternity leave. It'll be about February 22nd, something like that. And so I will be unavailable. I have a tentative return date of May 17th, but rest assured, we're going to have a nice plan on who will be covering for me, who will be sending out those monthly reports that you all receive. And if you have any questions, who can be there to answer any of your questions. But just wanted to send that out there. Thank you so much. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You're getting lots of beautiful photos. Congratulations in the chat box. We do have one request for you to share the graphics with the councils, and you can send those to me and I can send them to the councils. We have someone that wants to share them in their next newsletter.
Perfect. I will do that. Thank you so much.
And all the congratulations and keep good luck. Keep coming through.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of love. And that is a beautiful photo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will move right along. Next, we have Melissa from the Clayton team. She'll be providing an update on the virtual rating process. And I will send you the screen. Okay, and we can see you, Melissa.
Okay, can you see my presentation slides right now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Just doing some updates on Colorado Shines ratings today, and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing that I want to share with you is this graph talking a little bit about scheduling numbers and kind of where it's been for us. So programs rated by month in 2020 are the orange bars there you see represented. And those are compared with the average number of program observed over the last 2 years. So it was 2018 and 2019 averaged together, which is in blue. So you can see this is our 2020 here, and the areas where there's no orange represents COVID shutdown or when virtual rating development occurred. In November 2020, we did exceed the average number of programs rated through the new virtual interim process. And as of January 2021, we are back on our regular monthly rating capacity and anticipate meeting the projected monthly rating numbers that we did have in 2020 prior to COVID. So this next graph here just gives you a little bit of some projections of what we're looking at over the next few months. January ratings are wrapping up. February are wrapping up as well. And then we're kind of starting into March. So some of these are projected and actuals, and majority of this data is already confirmed. So the programs are confirmed. So we are scheduling any providers in the queue that have submitted applications and confirmed that they are ready to rate virtually. You can see in January, we've had 14 programs that went through the virtual rating process. In February, 22 programs. In March, 28, and April, 28 as well. And you can see on the chart there, it breaks it up into centers and family homes. This next chart here shows projections for those very same months and which counties. So yellow, orange, and red are the highest numbers in a given month. And you'll see that Adams, Arapahoe, and Jefferson have providers rating each month. So just wanted to talk a little bit about scheduling. So March programs are receiving orientation calls from their assessors as we speak. They have been all working on that this week. Josh Franklin, who is our data manager at Clayton, is working to schedule through June right now. So Josh is contacting all providers in the queue via email to determine readiness to rate. So he's already had over 200 providers that are receiving communications right now. In those communications, Josh is sending a Google form. So super important that they fill out that Google form. That gives us a good idea on their readiness and willingness to rate and just what their current situation is. So encourage providers to make sure they respond and fill out the Google form for us so we can collect all the data we need to schedule. If providers state they are not ready or do not want to rate virtually, they will stay in the queue, which means their rating level will not drop. And Josh will reach out to them again at a later date to check in. A few things more on scheduling here. So what if a provider tells me they're ready to rate and it's a program that's new to ratings? So always start off by submitting their L3 through 5 application through Colorado Shines, as long as all their level 2 requirements are met and completed. And then remind them that after they submit, it could take up to 90 days to be scheduled. This is our typical timeline for when programs enter the queue. It's varying a little bit right now because of virtual ratings. So some folks might be getting in quite sooner if they're ready to go. So we got a little variance there right now. And then 3, encourage them to watch for emails from Josh and be responsive to those emails so we can get them scheduled. So same question here, but what if they are a program that's already rating and coming up on expiration? Very similar steps there. The second one really helps us out if the program or the council can notify Josh via email or councils through Salesforce Chatter that they have submitted. He can work quickly to get them scheduled before they expire. And as always, encourage them again to watch for those emails from Josh, be responsive, and fill out the Google forms. Just the last couple of slides I have for you, I wanted to just share a couple of tips on the virtual rating process in general. So we've gotten some questions recently about how providers can prepare for their rating in advance. So review all the virtual rating resources on Clayton's website. Providers can do that at any time if they know they're coming up on a rating, and start preparing in that way. All of the resources on the website are the exact same resources that assessors will provide them during orientation call. So this is a good way to get a jump on things and get started. That link is nothing new. It's something I've changed or shared with you guys pretty often in this meeting. So just use that as a resource. Providers can also begin to organize and prepare all of their indicator documentation. So again, that's something they can do in advance. They can access the updated evidence guides on Clayton's website there at that very same link. And start to prepare in that way. Another way they can prepare, as always, is to attend a Colorado Shines Q&A session. This is a great opportunity to ask specific questions as well as just get some general information. These are open to all providers coming up on a rating or that are already in their rating window. We also send this information to councils, and coaches are welcome to attend as well. Couple more tips here. So just some tips for success around the rating in general. Again, we're mentioning to attend the Q&A session. Those are super valuable and informative. And then after the orientation call with the lead assessor, utilize the video checklist resource right away, and providers can work on the ERS video submission. The earlier this is completed, the better. Assessors will review that initial video and provide feedback if any major components were missing from the video or if something is not clear. They'll request additional information as well as deadlines on when the provider can submit that additional information. So again, always great to do this ahead of time as soon as you can, just so you're prepared and ready to submit additional evidence if needed. And we just always want to highlight to use that video checklist. If providers follow that video checklist, it will cover everything we need to be able to score and rate that program. So definitely use that resource before you record your video or as you're recording your video, and also after. And it's really important that providers also review their videos afterwards, so they feel like they've captured everything and they can utilize the checklist again before sending it to the assessor. So always pre-screen your videos. Last thing providers can do for some more tips for success is, of course, check our website frequently. We have a lot of resources at that link that was just listed, and they're updated frequently. So check back often and get the latest resources. And that is all I have for you guys today.
Thanks so much, Melissa. I appreciate it. All right, for the sake of time, we will move right along. Next, we have our preschool development grant team up with an update, and we see you, Kristen, and then Angela will be joining us as well, and we can see you. And Angela, your hair looks lovely today.
Thank you.
Which one of you gals is presenting? Or you don't have slides, right? We can't hear you, Kristen.
Kristen, we can't hear you actually.
Yep, thanks. All right, sorry guys, sign of the times. We do not have slides today, and we're going to have just a little bit of time with you all, and we'll do a more substantive presentation for you in February. I'm going to go ahead and get started just on some things to keep in mind as we enter the 2021 calendar year for PDG, and then Angela will wrap us up. So first, I can't remember whether we shared with this group. I don't think it would have happened by then, but we did get the third year of our PDG funding guaranteed by the federal government with the most recent budget that passed. And so that's very exciting because we were a little nervous about whether we were going to actually receive that third year of funding. And then in terms of 2021, things to look forward to, so the Preschool Development Grant Inclusion and Universal Design Project, that's really working very deeply with a smaller cohort of community-based providers serving marginalized populations on creating inclusive and universally designed classrooms. The second round of that is going to open up in April, so we expect applications to open up in April. And in the first iteration of the cohort, which will wrap up in February of this year, we were only able to serve 25 providers. In the second cohort, we're going to be serving 50. And so we're really excited about that because we had 160 applications, and it was at the very height of COVID. And so we obviously see a lot of unmet demand for assistance in this area. So we're excited to be able to expand to 50. And I'll see, are there any questions about that quickly before I kick it over to Angela? And Monica, you can tell me if they come in the chat.
Nothing yet.
Okay. All right,
And
Angela.
I know you guys are in a hurry, so we can always follow up too.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, and Kristen, feel free to drop off if you need to jump on your next call. I can give a couple of additional updates around what's going to be happening with PDG in 2021. So the first thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is the finalizing of your 2020 micro grant invoices. So if you recall from the guidance, we're actually giving you until the middle of February to turn in all of the receipts and invoices from the programs that received a 2020 grant. So if you need any additional time, or you need to get in touch with me for any last minute kind of budget approvals, if they change categories, you know, in their last weeks of December and you didn't have a chance to check in with me, we can still do that process. And so we, like I said, we're giving you until I believe it's February 12th. And then I am going to be sharing just a quick spreadsheet with each council that had approved programs. And I think there's something that just went down with my computer video. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you, we cannot see you, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. Sorry about that. Oh, there it is, it's back up. Okay, sorry. And so with the, I'll be sharing a spreadsheet that will be asking for just a couple of additional updates on where those programs are at. So it's just gonna have a couple of different columns that we're gonna ask, you know, how many slots did they end up opening as a result of their grant? When did they apply for that change in their license? And just 2 or 3 things that you can give us an update. So it's not going to be a full massive written report. We're just hoping to have a quick update so we can wrap up our 2020 reporting on that. And that won't be due until later in February. So this ask on that is going to be quite small. And we'll reference, again, the application, what they were intending to do and how much they were funded. And then you would just fill in those, you know, few pieces of details around their changes in license capacity as a result of the grant. So more to come on that, but I'll send those directly to the councils that had programs that were funded. And then a couple of programs were looking to move their projects into 2021. And so I just want to give some folks an update, and you can listen to Karen and Bowden's presentation at the end, but we were asking for those programs to take a look at the emerging and expanding grants as an opportunity to make sure that, you know, they can maximize the amount of funding that they can receive. So those guidelines will be detailed a little bit later in the call, but just wanted to note that for those folks, there is the opportunity to apply for those grant funds as well. And then moving on to the CDA, a couple of folks have requested just some details on that. We haven't announced our official deadlines for that, but what we're going to do this year is have a couple of different periods where the application is going to be open. And that's to make sure that we have grant funds for the CDA scholarships throughout the entire calendar year. And that way we're managing the cohorts in kind of smaller, in smaller cohorts. So that way we don't have all 220 scholarships for 2021 designated at the beginning of the year. So we want someone who maybe over the summer decides to apply, they'll have a period later in the year that they can apply for that scholarship. So more to come on that. We're working on just finalizing and updating some FAQ documents, so you have more information available as people are interested in getting that CDA scholarship money. And then last but not least, just a quick update on the business training and consultation. We're anticipating launching new trainings probably in late March or early April. So there's just a small gap in timing. And that's because we wanted to take some lessons learned from the first year and work those into the curriculum for each of the small business development centers that's providing the training, and just check in with the consultants and make sure if they have additional questions about the early childhood field, anything that they wanted to tweak or change, we're able to do that before launching the 2021 program. So consultation on that one-on-one scale is still happening right now with any SBDC that was participating, but you won't see any of those training dates launched until March or April. So just wanted you to kind of be aware that that's still going to continue this year, but that we won't see those dates for a little bit longer. So again, in February, expect a much more robust update from us on timing for all these applications for 2021 projects. And then in the interim, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us offline. And let's see, I saw one question come through. So how many cohorts will be offered for March to June? I'm assuming that's for the business training. We're working on letting people know how many trainings are going to be happening in each quarter. Our hope is that we're going to have about 3 per quarter for the rest of the year at least. But again, we're finalizing all of those details with our partners at the small business development centers to make sure that we can address some of the concerns from last year. So one of those, just to be a little transparent, is that we're going to make sure that we have several trainings that are available just for homes, several trainings that are available just for centers, and then cohorts for those that are interested in maybe creating a business plan around startup or expansion opportunities for their programs. So they'll be a little bit more targeted rather than those bigger generalized trainings. And that way programs feel more comfortable and know which trainings are really going to help them with the questions that they have. So that was something that we appreciated your feedback on. And we wanted the SBDCs to get a little bit more experience with our programs across the state. And they realized that they too need to kind of hone in on those trainings a little bit more and make sure that they're dedicated for the right audiences. And then let's see, there's another question here. There are a few recordings from those trainings that happened last year. My understanding is those trainings are only available for viewing for anyone who participated directly in those trainings. I can ask if SBDCs are intending to open those up to a broader audience. One of the small business development centers is creating a few on-demand modules for us, and those should be launching very soon. We're just finalizing the training alignment process to make sure that folks can get those professional development hours for participating in either any of the live trainings or in that on-demand option. So Sherry, we'll make sure to share some of that information around those on-demand modules that are going to be available, as well as when those live trainings are going to launch for this year. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us offline. But if there's anything else I can add, I'll be online for just a few more minutes, but I can pass it over to you, Monica, since I don't see anything else in the chat.
Thanks so much, Angela and Kristen. So next we have someone that's never joined us before for a state TA Day. So welcome, Jenny Lerner. She's with us here from CDE from the Migrant Education Program. And Jenny, I will go ahead and send you the presenter screen. You just have to accept it and let me know if it's not working for you. And we can't hear you, so I think you're muted. We can see your screen though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, and can you see my screen now?
I can. Can you put it in presenter mode?
I'm trying. I don't see. Show. Is it show screen?
No, we can see your screen if you can just make the slides larger.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. What about now?
Yep.
It
And
works?
I think usually on the top right, I think you can put it in a presenter mode, but I can see them pretty well. And then we'll be following up with an email to everyone that'll include these slides from the presentation.
In the top right, you said there is something, say, presenter.
Well, usually that's where it is for me.
Says share.
Actually, why don't you try clicking down, right, you're close, right there, like down a little bit on that, right down,
Down.
right next to the book to the right. That little icon that's next to the book there to the right, if you click on that,
There
I
you
think
go.
it'll put it in presentation mode for you. Even if
You
not,
mean,
don't worry about it. We can see it just fine.
okay, it says show, stop showing screen, give me keyboard, change presenters.
Just don't worry about it. It's fine.
Okay, okay. So anyway, I thank you again. My name is Jenny Lerner, and I wanted to make sure, Monica, that also Guillermo is here from the metro area. So I wanted to, Guillermo Barriga, so I wanted to make sure at some point also he's able to introduce himself. And there is going to be a slide that I wanted him to talk about. So would that be possible?
Absolutely. I'll just go ahead and unmute him.
Okay, that sounds good. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity. This is my first time in this Colorado Science Program meetings, and thank you for the opportunity to present about the Migrant Education Program. The goal is just to give you an overview about the Migrant Education Program in terms of the services that we provide, but also thinking about how we can collaborate with the early childhood community or early childhood providers. My role in the Migrant Education Program is I am the early childhood specialist for the Migrant Education Program at the Colorado Department of Education. So Guillermo, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Well, hi, it's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Guillermo, and I'm the coordinator for the Metro Migrant Education Program, which is one of the regional programs that receives funding from the Colorado Department of Education, Office of Migrant Education.
Thank you, Guillermo. So I'm gonna do a slideshow and from the beginning. Go. Okay. So when we talk about migrant education program, just for you to get an overview, I'm going to piggyback in something that actually Guillermo mentioned in the last presentation that we had with the Colorado Preschool Program, because sometimes people think about migrant thinking, oh, these are immigrants, or oh, this is something else, and they don't have any idea what specifically a migrant education program means. So it has a specific, it's very well defined what is migrant education program. So don't confuse it as immigrants is just a specific of migrant. So the migrant education program, and then maybe Guillermo can say something later on about that. But the migrant education program is part of the Title I, Part C, Elementary and Secondary Act, is the EC Act. And the key things that it provides supplemental support to eligible migrant children and youth. And the purpose is to ensure that migratory children and youth are not penalized by disparities among the curriculum, graduation requirements, academic contexts, and student academic achievement standards. So the key here is providing supplemental support beyond and above what is already being provided. In order to be a migrant education program, to be able to be in a migrant education program, to qualify, you need to have moved. Families have to show that they have moved in the past 3 years across states or school districts. Lines or join a migrant parent or guardian who has obtained qualified temporary or seasonal employee in agricultural, fishing, or dairy. So I just wanted to give you a key thing. The mission is to identify, our mission is to be able to identify the families and identify the children. And that's why it's so important, that partnership, not only with the ECE community and ECE group and with everybody else. But since I'm talking to you, I think we are really looking for that partnership. The vision is to provide equitable resources for migratory children and youth and post-secondary workforce so that empower the success of the migrant families. The objective is to assist the state in supporting high-quality educational programs, address unique needs of migratory children and families, to provide appropriate opportunities and for families based on their needs, and to design programs that will help the families with support with language barriers and social emotional, any health related programs, support the families in school services too. So here are some specific programs that the migrant education programs do. They supplement instructional services because we're talking services above and beyond with what the school already already offers. So tutoring, school supplies, helping them with homework, encourage to improve self-esteem programs, monitor graduation plans with students, and provide some books or literacy skills. And I put it here at the end, providing early childhood services. We work with several organizations in the migrant education program. We work with the U.S. Department of Education, the Office of Migrant Education, with state education agencies, and with local district operating agencies, and with different recruiters. We work with, we have in the state of Colorado, we have 5 different regions, the metro, and Guillermo is here and he will tell you something about the metro area in a little bit, the northern area, the west central, the southeast, and the southwest. I'm gonna let Guillermo say something about your region. So Guillermo, can you give us some feedback?
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. Well, like I mentioned earlier, I'm from the metro region, so we cover the school districts surrounding the Denver metro area. And really, like I mentioned earlier, we receive the money from CDE, and so we're the ones responsible to provide the services to the families. In our area, we have nearly 1,000 kids that qualify as migrant, and as Jenny mentioned, very important distinction that migrant is not necessarily immigrant. I mean, a lot of our families are immigrants, but the reason they qualify for our program is because they have that background in agriculture. And then I think one of the big reasons we're here today is because we want to make sure that our migrant families improve their ECE outcomes for their kids. A lot of our, just from leading our group for a few years now, I can tell you that a lot of our students, a lot of our kids are not enrolled in early childhood education programs. So what we do is we obviously try to get them in some type of program. I know there's a lot of barriers that they may face, transportation, language barriers, cost barriers. But we definitely, do visits, and we do all we can to be able to provide some sort of educational experience for the parents and for the students if we're not able to help them enroll in some type of program. I think other than that, the big takeaway is that those 5 regions really look at their own migrant families and try to figure out what are the services that they can provide. And one of the big things, I mean, one of the heart of the program is identifying families. So we definitely need the support of the community and community organizations to refer to us families that may have that agricultural background in the last 3 years, so that we may be able to potentially qualify them. I think that's all I have, Jenny. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention.
No, I think I'll continue with the PowerPoint because I think I can piggyback in some of the things you have said that will help me to kind of expand a little bit more. So thank you so much, Guillermo. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
So as Guillermo mentioned, there is different LEAs responsible for the identification and recruitment, and that's why we have 5 different ones. But the key is that they deliver the specific service and they recruit the families based on the qualifications that we talk about. As Guillermo mentioned, the Migrant Education Program provides very quality early childhood support for the children that are not being served by any specific ACE program. And this is done through home visits and now because of COVID-19, obviously with online support. And I'm gonna show you in a little bit some of the programs that we are providing for these families. But as Guillermo mentioned, there is a big percentage of those families, like 60% of the migrant education program, and I'm talking within all the regions, do not attend any kind of formal or informal early childhood program. So hence, you can see the importance of collaboration between early childhood programs, and that's why it's so important for us and for the early childhood programs to work together to help these families getting information about how to access these early childhood programs. So I wanted to emphasize the early childhood services. So the first thing is the collaboration with Birth to 5 families, with Birth to 5 programs. And we do collaborate with Head Start, with other early childhood programs, with early childhood councils. And specifically, we are kind of meeting with these different groups. So we've been meeting a lot. We started with the Colorado Preschool Program, where we share we talk about sharing resources, sharing information, sharing ways to recruit the families so we can get the information back and forth. If the families are migrant, we can get that information and we can also provide extended services for those families. So far, I'm just going to stop for 1 second. Does anybody have any kind of questions that you want to ask? And if they are in the chat, can you let me know?
I'll let you know. So far, no questions. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, please type them in the chat box, or if you want to ask your question out loud, just let me know and I can unmute you.
Right. And okay, thank you so much. So here are some ways we also we want to share recruitment efforts and also ways to help families get information about transition plans to kindergarten. So here are some of the things that we're looking as we think about collaborating with early childhood programs. We want to talk about how we can collaborate in terms of applications. So we have an occupational survey form that I'm able to share with all of you, and I'll send we send this info PowerPoint and this application. And this is a very small application to help us identify if the family may qualify to be migrants. So if you can, when you are recruiting families, if there is a way to ask those questions and refer us to the migrant program, I think that will be very, very beneficial for the families. Outreach efforts invite families to participate in trainings and share trainings opportunities. So these are some of the things that we look. And what I would love is if any one of you, the information is there, will like to contact me and see how we can start collaboration process, please email me. Or if you all think of any ideas, I really, really will appreciate that. I wanted to now mention some of our programs that we have. So I mentioned that even though the families may not be going to a specific early childhood program, we still work with an ECE specialist that work with the families through home visits or through right now online. And we have these different programs. We are about to start a program called Lina Home that will support early language development for 30 migrant families in a year between 20 to 30. And the key is working with children birth to 5 to support language development through the main thing is through the interactive talk, so that there is an increase in back and forth interactive talk when the parents talk and the children talk. So it's not only one way, but it's two-way. And this is strengthened by a technology called a pedometer, where they measure that interaction, and then the ECE specialist is able to meet with the families through a curriculum that helps them support that early language development in the daily routine during the day. So this is a very neat project that we are studying with the families. We also have a school readiness checklist that works in all of the developmental stages and is based on the Colorado standards, and it works with the cognitive development, physical development, early math development, social emotional development, language literacy, and also progress in understanding English. We are going to be working with an online class called with a partnership with University of Denver. It's called Kids Play Math, and then through this the ECE are able to take that class and being able to provide to families developmentally appropriate activities in early math based on how children learn math, and that goes hand in hand with the school readiness checklist. We have Book Colorado, where we provide free Colorado early childhood books for children to read in Colorado. So we're part of doing that. And this is for 4-year-olds that they receive that. But they also receive ideas on how to integrate the book with the children and additional activities to do with the book. We also have a parent engagement grant that is not only early childhood, but it's also looking at parent engagement at all levels. So how do we engage parents in participating on what's happening with the schools, with the children in the schools? And this is a state grant that we have. Some future projects, we are thinking about maybe Ready Rosie, where we may be providing some ways for families from birth to 3rd grade to looking at the interactions, everyday interactions, and how we can encourage parents to strengthen those interactions with the children at home during routines. So the key is during routines and very informal. And this can be done through texting or through email or doing that. So I just wanted to give you some of the ideas that we've been doing. So I'm gonna stop talking, and can I go back? I'm gonna go back now to the just to ask to see if there are questions, and I put my information and my email. So if anybody can want to email me or see ways to collaborate or to do some work together, I really open that. I think this is very, very important. And so I hope I gave you an overview, but I wanted to now go back and see if anybody has any questions. So can I go back, Monica?
Of course. Thank you so much, Jenny. We do have one question. It
Yes.
says, oh, hold on. Is that the SR checklist on the CD website?
The school readiness checklist, does she mean?
Yes, school readiness.
Yes, it's in process right now. We've been collaborating, and it will be in the website. So if there is one in the website right now, it's being changed to a new one, so that we include all of the developmental stages and areas. So we will put the new one in the website. The answer.
Thank you so much. All right. And as I mentioned, I will send out these slides in our follow-up email. We're going to go ahead and move along for the sake of time. Thank you so much, Jenny and team. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much for this opportunity again.
Okay, next up we have our partners over with the EC Connect sugar side of things. We have Lilith and Erin.
Hey everyone.
So who's presenting out of you, or who's sharing slides or their screen?
I think we're going to use my screen, right, Lilith? Or
I have mine pulled up if you'd like. So doesn't.
Either one of us. We're both ready to go.
We're ready to go.
Okay, I will send it over to Erin because your name was up first.
Great. That's perfect. Show my screen. So I have two screens. Are you able to see the presentation that I have up, or?
Reconciliation?
Okay, great. Just wanted to check. So I think that Lilith is actually going to kick us off by talking about the new reconciliation process in sugar. This will probably be of most interest to council grant leads and anyone who does sort of financial work with councils. So just so you know, if you are not involved in the reconciliation process, you can, have us on in the background.
But just a reminder, we are recording this, so if you do have that person at your council that's not available right now, you can always refer them to the recording.
Great, thank you.
So this is reconciliation, the review of the highlights and important steps of this new process. Sorry, my screen is a little funky. So basically, we here at our council tried to look at how reconciliation was working, how other councils were doing it, what the steps were, any little kinks that were coming up or ways to do it differently and things like that that would translate easily to other councils as well. Just saying, okay, we made a new way, everyone do it this way. We tried to make a way that everyone could incorporate into their existing process. So this one gives us the accurate invoice dates. The invoice date is not the only field that determines what is in a reconciled status anymore. So that's really nice. For some individuals or councils who maybe if that was kind of messing some reconciliation things up with the dates and whatnot. So I'm going to take care of that. This new process also tracks what has been billed to the funder. So we wanted to really try to avoid double billing or missing that billing so that those councils wouldn't get reimbursed for their spending. So basically avoiding that double billing and ensuring that councils are getting reimbursed for their expenditures was really, really crucial to this. The summary report that we have as part of this process does kind of the harder calculations for you. If anyone's a super whiz at Excel and doing calculations like this, or you've been doing it for a while, this may be, kind of a nice step. But for some who maybe are just joining with councils or who take kind of a back seat to the reconciliation process, but now have to start doing this more, it's a very complicated process to get those numbers together. So it's definitely nice with navigating the complexity of the targeted and expanded funding stream kind of split, that this summary that you're pulling every month does that calculation for you. So, and Erin, if you have anything to add to any of that.
Nope, that sounds great, Lilith.
Great. So our assumptions I talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but assumptions built into this process is that only records that are reconciled status should be billed to the OEC. And so just kind of trying to make sure that everyone was using that reconciled status more on like a standard term, and that councils were billing roughly on a monthly basis, and that they're billing for that entire record. So that coaching deal or that coaching detail or that spending record, they're billing for that entire record all at once. And that we really wanted to make sure that the amounts that you see in sugar reflect the actual expenses incurred. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this, maybe Erin, when this may not be true later on, but just really making sure that this data that you have in Sugar is reflective and accurate of what you are actually billing for, and the two systems match, so we don't have possible double billing, we don't have these missed expenses. Everything should be lining up pretty standard and nothing gets missed. So in order to ensure that this process runs really smoothly, there's 6 steps to this process, and just want to review kind of really quickly. You know, we've sent out the steps document to individual councils, and we can always send them out again, but those steps are really, really important. Start from number 1, go through, go to number 6, just so the whole process is just really, really smooth, and nothing gets missed in that whole new process. So it's supposed to be really, really easy. If something does get overlooked or a step gets skipped, it can get a little wonky. It's fixable, it can be corrected, but it's just really good to like start at step 1, take it slow. So for step 1, that is basically, it's super easy. You receive that email from the support at EC Connect, and that tells you, hey, it's time to reconcile. What's really great, and I think I mentioned in the documentation, is that your individualized CSQI funding stream link is in that email. So instead of having to like go and search for it, which I'm sure all of you know how to do, you can just click on it in your email. And so once you have that, your second step would be to make sure you're not missing any records. So looking back and seeing what is not in a reconciled status, and just really determining, has that been paid? Does it need to be included in this billing cycle, and moving it into that reconciled status. The third step is review all of your reconciled reports. So that's again another set of reports that shows you all of your records that have moved into that reconciled status for you to then look over and gauge against kind of your individual invoice processes or your individual finances within your council. Say these reports match your finances and everything looks really good to go. One step that's really important is to make sure that you export those all reconciled spending and all reconciled coaching reports. They've got that cute little shebang in front of them as well. So that you have those for your records and you have everything kind of saved and ready to send off to the OEC before you start any of the next steps. So just make sure to save those 2 reports. And then step 5 is to run your summary report. And that's again on your CSQI funding stream, which you can find through your email of that notification that it's time to reconcile, or you can search for it through the funding stream module. And that, we throw around report a lot in the documentation and explaining it. That summary report is going to do, like I said, all of those calculations for you of all of those records that you have reconciled. And when you do run that summary report on your funding stream, it's going to mark those reconciled records as billed to funder. So then they will not show up again if you go back and you run your all reconciled spending and coaching report. So just something to really remember. If you're gonna add anything or tweak anything, do it before you run that summary report on your funding stream. And then step 6, made a nifty little video of how to fill out your OEC invoice. If you do not have the template yet, definitely contact your program officer at OEC and they can give that updated template to you. And it's pretty easy just to kind of copy and paste the specific columns, but I would definitely recommend checking out the video that I have embedded in that documentation of how to do it, just in case it's your first time doing it, you've got all these new directions, it's just kind of helpful to do that as well. And then voila, you are done. You send off your OEC invoice template along with those reports that you had downloaded and saved earlier, and that should be your steps 1 through 6. And then if you need any help, kind of 2 places to go to that. So if you need more technical, if there's anything technical related to the new reconciliation process and the step-by-step instruction document, you would visit the help desk. and it's listed here, so I won't read it out for everyone. And if you really get stuck, you can submit an email to support@ecconnectcolorado.org. And then that's for more technical related things. You know, if you've run your summary report on your funding stream and then you are having to reconcile something really fast that you didn't know you missed, you didn't catch it at first, that would be something that you a help desk ticket for. Or if you know, you ran the report and you were pulling all zero, you ran the summary report and you're pulling all zeros, that's definitely something you want to submit a ticket for, because that would be a little funky. And then as far as contacting your program officer at the OEC, if a council needs to make changes to a record after it's been marked as bill to funder, then they will have to contact their program officer at the OEC, because only the program officer has the ability to go in and make those changes. So you have to change any amounts or change actual records. That's something that OEC can help you with. If you need a copy of the correct OEC template, you can go to your program officer for that as well. And if you have any more financial or policy related questions or a unique billing situation, then that would be something that you would also go to your program officer for. Again, EC Connect being really more technical questions or questions on the documentation that is provided. And then if you've got some more you know, intricate or individualized ways that you're doing that spending or reporting it, then the OEC would be your place to go for assistance.
Thanks, Lilith. And just a reminder, the OEC program officer, I always forget who that is, but it's actually Michelle, Charlie, or myself in sugar language. So
yes.
That's who your program officer is.
Yeah. I think some councils too might say QRIS coordinator and things like that. So sorry if I'm confusing with the language. The individual that you speak with at the early childhood that helps you through this billing process.
Correct. And I don't know if everyone has received the new template. I will send it out in the follow-up email, so you'll receive that as well.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have just a couple minutes left. We wanted to take you on sort of a whirlwind tour of the steps. If I can figure out which window it is. Because sometimes it's just more useful to see it in action. So I will attempt to do that in like 2 minutes. So essentially, you are again going to follow those steps that Lilith outlined, and the order is so important because your ability to control what shows up in the summary report is dependent on you taking a look at first these existing sugar reports. So before we make a summary, we have to make sure all the details are correct. So I went ahead and starred the reports that we use for reconciliation, which is a good little tip. So you can do that if you would like to just sort of have them on hand. So I'm just going to look at spending because that seems pretty good place to start. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at, and again, these links are available in the reporting module. They are also in the documentation, and they're also in that email that you receive on a monthly basis. So hopefully one of those is a good way to get it to you. So we are in pretend sugar. If you notice in the URL, you have our developer's name, Bill, up in there. So please know that we are trying to keep all of your real data confidential. This is all just test data. So we just wanted to use this so we could show you what it looks like. We're going to use Bright Futures abbreviation as an example. Please know you're not being called out. This is all just pretend. So we just like your acronym because it is only 2 letters. So it makes it really easy to do searches. So you'll go ahead and look at this report. It should automatically pull up just your council's data, but because I'm an administrator, I have to put the team name in. Otherwise, it shows me literally everything. So what you're going to do at this point is really turn a critical eye to which records are in here and do they match what you have in your accounting system, whatever that may be. And this is really your time to decide, do I want to bill this month or do I not? If you see something in here that you're like, you know, I know that this invoice date technically is in the past, but we didn't actually get this delivered yet, so I'm not ready to bill for it. You can just open that spending record and change the status when it loads to anything besides reconciled. So you can go ahead and just, it's probably best to put it in like a ready for finance type of status. You don't want to put it all the way back to anything else. So I would say use approved and ready for finance or approved and ready for accounting system, and just let it hang out in that status for 1 more month until you are ready for, oh my gosh, sorry. I am not 100% used to GoToWebinar, until you're ready to bill for it. So go ahead and say, all right, I don't want to bill that this month. When I go ahead and rerun this, it's not going to show up anymore. So this is really the time where you have control over what you're billing. And in addition to checking what you're billing, you want to make sure that you're checking what you're not billing. So this is our unbilled spending report, which is great to look at before you run your summary report, because it will show you all the records that aren't going to be billed. And sometimes stuff gets left behind. And so this is a great place to check for it. Like you might take a look and say, oh, actually this spending request I do want to bill this month. You do the exact same thing, you open it up, and then you just change the status to reconciled rather than away from reconciled. So I'm not going to show you that in the interest of time, but you get the idea, I hope. Once you're 100% sure that your spending and coaching look good, you're comfortable with the records that are in there, then you get to go to your funding stream and go to the budget summary tab and go ahead to do your actions. And you will only see one action. Since this is test sugar, we get to see more, but you will go ahead and generate your reconciliation report and save. It'll populate a link. I want to do it. So sometimes if there's multiple users doing something, it'll ask you which one you want to do. It's usually safe to select yourself. And then you will go ahead and do this. Now, this is a super important step. I know it looks like it's just taking a super long time to generate a report, but what's actually happening in the background is that all of those records that showed up in your reports by the time you had them finalized, they're actually all being marked as billed to funder. So that's why they won't show up when you run this report again in the future, because there will be a sort of field on them that lets you know, like, hey, this has already been billed. Don't try to bill it again. Or, you know, if something hasn't ever been billed, then it's very easy to find that it hasn't. So it's kind of, this is really the newest step. Hopefully all the other steps weren't so crazy. They were more or less how you did things before, just slightly different reports. But this step is new and it's different, and it's so that A, you get a neato Frito summary report that does calculations for you, but also B, we're marking records as billed to funder as we go through the year. That way at the end of the year, there's no shock about like what's left behind or something that accidentally got double billed. Really the thing we saw more often was that things would get left behind, and we definitely don't want that, because we want to make sure councils get all of the funding that they need for all of the work that they are doing. And then you will just open up your spending report. You can see all of these are December because I've been testing this a lot. So you can look at the published date to find the most recent one, but you should only have one for every month because there's no way to reset it in Real Sugar. So you can click on the link that was at the top, but that's sometimes fussy, I will be honest with you. So it might be easier to click on the document name and then open up the little CSV, and that'll download a report. Open that sucker up, and this should be the data that you use to invoice OEC. Now, I know some people have different procedures where, especially with internal coaching, you might not bill the exact amount that is shown here, and that's okay. Really, this is just to give you sort of the raw data about what expenses Sugar thinks you did this month. And you want the things that Sugar thinks you did this month to reflect reality as closely as possible. If you have to change the actual amounts that you put in the invoice template, totally understandable. I think that that comes up in several situations, especially dealing with staff salaries. So please bill OEC for your actual expenses incurred, but we hope that this data from Sugar helps you make sure that you aren't totally mismatched in terms of what sugar thinks happened and what really happened. So that's really what this process is for. And like Lila said, you can select the whole darn thing, copy and paste it into your invoice template and send it off. So sorry that was really quick. Again, this is all documented and we are happy to walk through it with you. And I will wrap up because I think we're over time a little.
If anyone has any questions for Lilith or Aaron, go ahead and type them in the chat box, please. All right, well, for the sake of time, we will move along. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Next, we have Karen that will be presenting on the Emerging and Expanding Childcare Program Grant. Hello, Karen.
Hey.
And I will send you the screen.
You don't know which screen you're seeing is the only problem.
We're seeing all of your little document icons.
Really
Your
ugly.
desktop.
Yeah, sorry.
But probably not the correct one. There we go.
Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay, that should be better. And Debbie is here as well, Debbie Gray. So feel free, Debbie, to jump on and jump in. We're gonna spend a little time today talking about where we are with the Emerging and Expanding Grant, give you guys an update. And I don't have like great pretty slides like everybody else did, my apologies, but we had to put this together fairly quickly today. And this thing is just, you know, it's unfolding in real time. So I wanted to just give a quick update on what the eligibility requirements were via the legislation or are. Programs do need to be open and operating if they're currently a licensed program or the program is opening new. So they're opening a new family childcare, or they're opening a new center. But it must result in an expansion of capacity in that community. So if there's a center, for example, who maybe shut down a room 6 months ago due to COVID, and now they want to reopen the room, they wouldn't be eligible for this. They would only be eligible if they were adding a new room, or adding like a new age group. So maybe they turned a preschool room into an infant toddler room, then they would be eligible. And each situation will be, you know, a little bit different. Of course, we'll be looking at that to see how it meets the eligibility requirement. The legislation does ask us to prioritize desert and rural areas. Programs do need to agree to serve CCAP. They do need to agree to engage in Colorado Shines and agree to engage with their early childhood council and sign an MOU. So none of this should be too different from what you've heard already. Further eligibility requirements, agree, I think I just put that on the same slide, so sorry, that was a misprint there. Must meet all requirements of DECL licensing. So this is where if a program is expanding a classroom or adding a classroom, such as an infant room, they would, you know, still need to do their application to licensing, and those sorts of things need to be in play when they're applying for these grants. And so the licensing team will be very engaged with this grant application, and we'll be doing like the first review of it for approval to make sure that the things that are supposed to be happening on the licensing side are. The program may not already be fully funded, meaning maybe they're, you know, fully funded through Head Start or CPP or something like that. And then this was added, probably you haven't heard this before and it's not in the legislation, but it follows kind of the guidance that we've been given for capital improvements. If the program is leased or rents a space, and especially if like a family childcare home who might be opening their home in an apartment building or something like that, they just need to provide a letter of support from the landlords that we're assured that the landlord is aware that some, you know, improvements are being made to that property. All right, so this is very different. We are, of course, working really closely with the EC Connect team. The timing of this grant, as you guys know, came along very, very quickly. And so as we were talking with them, they were like, oh, we can't get the application built before you guys actually need it. So we are going to turn, we've built an application within the Salesforce system that will ultimately end up talking to the EC Connect system. And I don't want to go too deep in those details, but so basically the application is going to sit on the coloradoshines.com website. It's like a two-step navigation. They'll go to the For Programs tab, and then they'll get a tab that says Grant Application. I'm hoping, you guys, that I'll be able to demo this for you next Friday, I think it is. We're planning to release this on February 4th, and I've reached out to Megan to see if possibly I could get on your next call on the 5th so that we could actually show you this, what this looks like, so you'll feel a lot more confident than me just kind of, rattling on about it here today. And it's pretty straightforward. So it's just, fill in your demographic information, fill in information about the project that you're, requesting funding for. The licensing specialist, as I mentioned before, is part of the review and approval process. The grant management will still be over on the EC Connect side. So you guys are comfortable and familiar with that, so that will be good. We're going to have the Salesforce system send data over to the EC Connect system, so that information will flow over there. And then you also will be receiving reports and emails for any new application that goes through the approval process. So there is one really, really important thing I need to ask you guys to do on this particular thing. We have to validate emails in the Salesforce side of the system to make sure you guys are getting all these reports and emails. So over the next week, you are going to be getting an email from Salesforce asking you to validate the email. And what we're doing is we're just going to pull the emails that you're currently using in the Sugar system, plop them in the Salesforce system, and then that's the email that will get the validation. And we just need you to do that prior to next Friday. Just watch for that. If you have any questions on that, let us know. But it's just like if you were gonna reset your password, it's something like that. You'll get that email to say, please validate your email address. You will have list views over on the Salesforce side, so you'll be able to pull up, all of the applications that are active or in review on a list view by your council. We do have some automations as well over on the Salesforce side, which is kind of nice. So when they put in their license number, either their pending license number or their permanent license number, anything that we can pull from the account record over, we are. So we're pulling the information about the council, we're pulling the licensing specialist information, and some of the demographic information we'll pull over as well. So that will be good. And then if they do enter an incorrect license number, it's not going to let them proceed. So that's just the one thing. I know a lot of you guys will be helping providers through this process. So we just need to make sure that the license number gets entered accurately because there's a validation in there.
And Karen, if I could just point out, for our pending providers that are not licensed yet, as soon as they fill out that original application to apply for a child care license, they do receive a pending license number that we will approve, eventually, but that's the license number that they can use.
Exactly, because that will follow them once they get to permanent status.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So again, some of the application information, just real high level, and just questions about, that are aligned to those legislative requirements. Questions about their project. We're going to ask them to, describe the project that they are requesting funding for. The amount that's requested, it's a minimum of $3,000, a maximum of $5,000, and they will need to also submit a budget template, and that budget template will be located within that application. So they'll just click on it. It's our standard template that you guys are already familiar with, and it has the same buckets of funding that is in the EC Connect system. So coaching, training, supplies. I think it's called ed supplies, which was where we're throwing everything into. So if they want to get reimbursed, for example, for background check fees, we're just throwing all that stuff in supplies. But we do have all of that documented for you on that guidance that you'll be getting here shortly. Also, we talked about the letter of support. They'll have to tell us how many slots will be created using this funding. They will have to just affirm that they're willing to work with their early childhood council and sign an MOU, and affirm that they're willing to obtain a fiscal agreement, all part of the legislation. Okay, then I tried to outline this, and it could change slightly because, again, we're still working on the technology side of it, which was pretty far along. We got to see a demo this morning, and it's looking really, really good, but we did ask them to make a few tweaks. So the application approval will go through first the licensing specialist, and they will be able to put the application into a status. We're going to do some training with them and give them some guidance as well on how to do this, but they'll be, like, as soon as they get their application, we're going to ask them to, start to review it and actually check that it's under review, so that the early childhood council, who can look at their list view on the Salesforce side, will be able to notice that that is under review. We've put a few deadlines and reminders in there for folks so that they know that those applications are out there for their review. We also are allowing these other categories. They can approve it, they can deny it, they can withdraw it based on a provider reaching out saying, I did this in error, I really don't want to apply for these funds, or mark it under review. And those withdrawn, denied, all have to have explanations documented when they choose those particular statuses. And so that will all be viewable to you guys, which, again, when we get this demo up and running, we'll show you where all of that is. Then the approval on step 2, the approved application information will be sent to Sugar with the approved funding amount. So those buckets that you're used to seeing already, we'll send those amounts over to Sugar, and that will follow that license number. So then once it's over there, you guys are, autopilot, you're managing your grant as you would any other grant, your CSQI grants, all of that stuff, just as you would, that functionality will remain. So that should be a little comforting that that part isn't changing. And then step 3, the early childhood councils will review the application details, work with the program, and execute the MOU. One thing I didn't add in here, there will be one extra step with the MOU. So when you're, we're working with Aaron and team on this over on the EC Connect side, but when you guys execute an MOU and it goes out to the program for their signature, comes back for your signature, it's also going to need to be signed by the licensing supervisor who's assigned to your council. So because there's, this whole issue with, needing to follow the licensing requirements, this is just one extra step. We think it's a good step that programs realize they're working with both licensing and their council on these grants. And then that next step would be the funds requested for capital projects. So we do want to talk through this a little bit. I'm looking at time. We are very close. I'm so sorry. We just want you to know, we do think the most of these grants will have a capital component. They'll still fill that out on the application side, but the capital piece, because the EC Connect grant module is a little, it's kind of sits out on its own, that you will need to help that provider actually complete that capital portion of this grant over on the EC Connect side. It's exactly the way you're doing it now for minor improvements. So then that will come into the program officer, the QRS coordinator, for their approval. And that's how our team gets looped into this whole process. And then once those are approved, of course, the spending can start to take place for that. We're very, very close to having a guidance document finalized. An MOU is also being finalized. Like I said, we're targeting February 5th to do an application demo with you guys. And currently questions can be directed to the QRS team. You can call me, you can call Debbie, Tanya, our licensing support team. And we know probably some of this it was done fast, and there's probably questions that are bubbling, and we're really, really hoping that you do think through this and do present questions, because if we didn't think of something, we'll need to have a process for it. So we were trying to kind of marry what's happening with CSQI with what just happened with the micro grant, so that there's some familiarity with all of this. And we also use lessons learned from the micro grants, and which is the reason why we developed the application process versus trying to track it manually. And we think also it's just going to be something, this module that we have over on Salesforce might be something that we'll be able to use again in the future when there's another grant opportunity. So I lost my ability to see questions, and I know we are like at the end of our time. Let me see if I have more. Yeah, we're at the last. So if
Karen,
there's
we actually
anything we can
scheduled
do.
2 hours today, so you're fine.
Oh, so good. Okay, I totally forgot
And we're
about that. So.
recording, and we'll send out the recording when it's finished.
Okay, cool. Well, that if we have some time to take some questions from folks, or just if people just want to kind of ponder this.
We do have questions.
Yeah, great. Let's see if I can.
So first, just an announcement, and thank you, Megan. Karen will be presenting on February 5th during the ECLA Hot Topics call. So be sure to join that. And the next
we think it'll be good to show you guys what we're talking about today.
And then the next question is, will councils be able to provide any input into applications before approved?
Yes, here's where we think that would be really, really helpful, and what we think will probably happen. You guys tell us, but more than likely you're working with these, applicants prior to them even going into the application in the Salesforce side to complete that application. So we would assume that you have already probably reached out to this provider, you've talked with them. That doesn't prevent a provider from, just going and doing this on their own, but I don't think that's going to be a real prevalent case, because there's questions in there about, are you working with your EC counsel? Are you working with your licensing specialist? And give us those names and addresses. So there's some checks and balances in there, but here's what we're thinking will happen. You'll probably be working with them. You might even help them complete the application, or you could complete the application on their behalf. It's entirely up to you. As long as you've got that license number, it's going to let you do that. And then you can, kind of help them through this process. So we are fully anticipating, if an application comes in and goes to that licensing specialist, that you and the licensing specialist will also be working together. So let's say you look, at your list on the Salesforce side, and you can see that there's an application in there that's under review by the licensing specialist. Absolutely, you can give them a call and ask them about that application, or if they need anything from you. And Debbie, certainly jump in here if you feel like if there's a better kind of way to do this. And we also are more than happy to set up calls between the licensing team and you guys as we kind of navigate this little bit newer process.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect, Karen. And I'm going to jump down. There's a question that says, what will be the process for designating licensing specialists? So if it's a brand new program and they apply for a license, or a brand new family child care home provider, again, through that application process, they get a pending license number, and it's put into our Salesforce system. And that's when Salesforce assigns it the licensing specialist based on the zip code. So it'll be immediately assigned, and definitely having that open communication with our specialist. I 100% agree with you, Karen. Right now, I think that's the only process we have initially during that application process.
Right. I do want to add, there was a question from Suzanne in here about the CCAP fiscal. And Suzanne, no, they don't have to actually have opened a CCAP fiscal with their local DHS at this point. Some programs will already have them, and that's great. They just need to affirm that they're willing to do that through the application process. And then that meets our legislative requirement to ensure that programs are willing to do that.
And there were questions about the amounts. The minimum is $3,000 and the max is, wait for it.
50.
No, $50,000.
Sorry, I stole your thunder, yes. So that is written into the legislation. We kind of laughed a little bit about the minimum 3,000. So, you know, it's like, nope, you can't have $299,999. You have to have $3,000. But the really cool thing about this is that they gave us real open opportunities to spend it however the program needs it to get these new slots available to their community. So they could spend it on consumable materials in the classroom, on cleaning supplies, really anything they need. And so even if, you know, the grant award is, you know, $10,000 and, you know, their construction's done and all of a sudden they have, you know, $1,500 left over, we would highly encourage you to work with them to spend that down on putting materials in that classroom. So that's the nice thing about this grant over CSQI. You've got more flexibility here to spend, you know, on other things that aren't allowed under CSQI. But I do want to bring up the point that we absolutely want you guys to also, if they're eligible for CSQI, to also draw down those funds as well, because, you know, you can do more coaching with them and you can really provide a greater service to them. So, you know, as an example, if it was a center who's opening, they could actually end up with $53,500 to work with. And we would really encourage you to do both if you can, because we want to be able to spend down our CSQI grants as well as, you know, get these grants going too.
And they have until June 30th, 2022 to spend the funds, so they have more time.
Yeah, and that's why we had all that crazy dancing with the contracts to get this grant sitting into its own contracts for you guys. It just gives you that flexibility. We don't have to do any kind of weird reconciliation at the end of this year. It just rolls over into June 2022. And I do think that's gonna allow us a lot more flexibility. And I'm sorry about the way that all rolled out, but I think in the long run, it was the right decision to make.
We do have another question. It says, is there a guide for this so we can have an idea of this or we can share with staff? What is the role of the council we need to do?
Yeah, so really good questions, Julia. Yes, we have a guidance document that's about 90%, probably a little further, 95% along. We've got a few people just taking a final look at it, and then we wanted to add some of the application information that we just saw the demo on today. So we'll get that fleshed out for you here before next week, or before the end of next week. And the role of the council really is just, I mean, you guys are the grant managers of these funds, and certainly you're going to have a better idea of who in your community might be thinking about opening an infant room or expanding a preschool program or whatever the case may be. I do want to point out this is for birth to 5, so school age only programs unfortunately do not qualify under this grant. But that priority of deserts and rural areas that's written into the legislation, Colorado has a desert for infants and toddlers, so those were, you know, just automatically going to be approved for sure. And, you know, provided all the licensing side of things are going forward. And we will just look, you know, holistically at the grant funds to see, you know, what the applications are coming in. As the grant funds start to spend down, we'll get a little bit pickier probably about pushing a rural application forward versus, you know, somebody in the metro area. But I think Colorado in general has been deemed a desert overall, so we're not too terribly worried about that.
Next question is, if a program's expanding and qualifies for this funding, can they also apply for capital improvement funding if they are eligible for those funds? Yes.
Yeah,
That's
on the CSQI
capital
side, yes, for sure. So yeah, we're really hoping you guys take advantage of doing that. So.
And then it looks like a step is missing where licensing works with the local ECC before engaging in the approval process. A pre-step one.
Yeah, I think what we were really expecting is that the ECC would be engaged up front of even the provider submitting the application. So let us go back to that and kind of think through that a little bit. Licensing specialist approval really is about what is required for licensing. Have they completed the application? Did they submit their fee for, you know, expansion, or did they get their license number for, you know, the pending license? Are they, you know, working on their zoning, health inspections, and all of those things that need to take place need to be in process, and that's what the licensing specialist is looking for approval or not. Yeah. So if there's anything, Debbie, you can add.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in some cases, we may need to go out there, and if it's a new classroom and we've never seen that classroom, we want to make sure that that's a licensable space and that we don't have any concerns about it. So it is just our typical licensing process that Karen just mentioned before we would approve it. It's really up to the councils to make the determination on, you know, the money that they're wanting and how they're going to use that money. We're just looking at it as far as, are we able to give this program a license?
Yeah.
And then a question about, can providers qualify for this grant in addition to PDG grant and capital grants? They can, and we encourage them to apply for Colorado Shines QI, which is that regular coaching and quality materials. We encourage them to apply for everything out there, really, and they're all different grants, so they can be eligible for all of them.
So as you know, Kristen and Angela had an update, and the micro grant that was out there is just being put on hold right now while the E&E grant rolls out, since the E&E grant has a lot larger amount of funding attached to it. So just to remind you guys, that one's being on hold for now. But any and all other grants that come through or things that are even might be in the works, because we're hearing there's some federal funds coming into the state. Yeah, any and all things that they would be eligible for, they can take advantage of. It's pretty awesome time right now. We're pretty excited about that.
And it says we had 4 providers in the micro grant who were not connected to our council, so it would be helpful for councils to be a part of the discussion with licensing if needed. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then we do have a comment from our business savvy Danielle. Sorry, Danielle, not calling you out. You always just think through the whole process, and I appreciate that. But she says it's very important to work with local ECCs in advance, as we can run these expenses through our finances and have a plan to accommodate big expenses. And that's very true.
Correct. Yep. And that's what we would fully anticipate would be happening. So we will look and make sure there's no you know, procedure or step that we need to add in there. But I guess my assumption is, you know, you guys know who these programs are, who are gonna, you know, who've probably already been talking to you about, hey, I'd like to add a toddler room or whatever. And that working with them on the budget would be really an ideal situation. Because, you know, if we get a family child care provider who goes into the application and says, you know, I'm going to add 2 kids and I want $50,000, well, we're going to question that, obviously. So we really need, you know, getting that particular support is going to be really helpful for them.
Do you have dates of when application dues and awards, or is it still a rolling application deadline until funds are spent?
Exactly. It's going to be a rolling application. And the good news about the rolling application is that a program who might be on probation right now cannot apply for these funds at the moment. But if they, you know, get through probation successfully and they are now wanting to maybe expand their program, they would be able to complete an application at that point in time. So it's not going to be like, as of this date, you have to meet your eligibility. We didn't want to do that because we know there's probably some programs out there who are working through some challenges who would be ideal candidates for these grants. So that's where the rolling application will come in handy. There was some question about how do you assign the licensing specialist. I think that is all done through the Salesforce system. So we have licensing specialists that are assigned when a program actually applies for a license, and there's programs who already have a license, already have a licensing specialist. So it will follow that same pattern. If it's, you know, that center is assigned to that licensing specialist, that's the licensing specialist that'll be working with them. The other thing to note is that we did assign a licensing supervisor to each council, where there might have been 2 before, just for the signature on the MOU. And we've provided that information to the EC Connect team so that that becomes an automated process.
Any more questions?
So I know Sherry had a question about the planning, and we probably need to talk a little bit more about what that is, Sherry, but it has to actually, the application to licensing actually has to happen, so it might not fall into that bucket. So we'll have to see if we can get more details on that one.
How soon will the first awards be made?
Well, the application opens on the 4th, if all goes well, actually the 5th. So overnight on the 4th, we'll put everything into production. And so it'd be open on the 5th. It could be awarded as fast as the 6th if everything is there. We have some deadline processes though. So you know, the application gets routed to the specialist to determine if all the licensing pieces are there. We give them a week to do that. And they may need a little bit more time, especially if a visit needs to happen and those sorts of things. So
Thank you,
that's
Karen.
where those statuses will help.
That's
So,
exactly what I wanted to clarify, Karen. In some cases, this is for the brand new facility. We will need to do an inspection, and so that will delay things a little bit. But obviously, we are trying to prioritize approving these applications as quickly as possible. If it's a space that we've already, if it's a existing license and we're pretty familiar with that space because we, you know, have been going out there yearly, then it may be something where we don't need to go out and look at it. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but please know that we have definitely been given the direction to make this a priority.
Yeah, so there's really nothing in the system that prevents it from being awarded as soon as everyone has done their piece to touch it. So, so that's the good news. And it's not like awarded on a date, you know, here. So basically, you could be getting an email on a daily basis saying there's an application that's been approved by the licensing specialist.
And we are asking the licensing specialist to put information in that chat box that Karen had talked about earlier, so the councils can also see that information if you're having a question on, you know, why is this delayed or why hasn't this been approved? We can put notes in there to keep you informed.
And we have another question. It says, how is OEC advertising this potential providers to potential providers and the general public to help drive traffic to councils?
So we will do what we've done with the other grants and do some newsletters out to all licensed providers. And we're going to stress that we really want them to be working with their early childhood counsel in that communication. That way, then there's not these surprise applications or very few of them where you guys aren't, first knowing that they're there and have been working with this provider to support them to put that budget together and those sorts of things. So we'll probably have something out right after this goes live on the 5th, just because I want to give you guys information and show you how this is all looking. And then probably that following Monday or so, Tuesday, we'll get the communication starting to roll out of the office.
How will the general public know this is a resource for individuals who want to start a family child care home?
I think, yeah, we would be covering that through the communication.
And you guys do have the little bit of funding in your emerging and expanding contract. That is kind of what you're supposed to be doing with that, is to reach out to programs and find potential individuals that want to open a family child care home. It's kind of what those base funds are doing. And that's the contract that we just pushed through a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And especially those of you who are working with CCR&Rs that might have information that somebody's called to find out about pre-licensing or things like that. That's also maybe an opportunity for low-hanging fruit to maybe reach out to that inquiry. And I know there's going to be more questions, and I know we'll probably have to navigate a few bumps in the road on this whole thing, just because this is rolled out so fast. Yeah, and we'll just hammer it out together.
Just a quick announcement. Everyone's quarterly report is due at the end of this month. So if you haven't started working on that and you don't have the link to it, just reach out to your QRS coordinator. And we will also be sending out the contract amendment packet probably in the next week or so, because it's that time of year. We need to start getting ready for contracts for 2021, 2022. It seems like we've been doing contract amendments every other week. But
so really, we do feel your pain. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course,
Monday
you know,
is fine
if
for
the
the
new
quarterly
funding,
report.
yeah, if the new funding comes into the state, we can all look forward to an amendment, probably right about the time we're starting our new contract. So I guess it's all good news in the grand scheme of things.
All right.
I don't know that I don't see any more questions, but as you think of them, don't hesitate to reach out. And honestly, you know, we're trying to do our best to anticipate what's going to happen, but you know, something's going to come up. So let's chat through it if need be. And I can always take stuff over to, you know, Aaron and Stacy if we need to get some clarification as well.
All right. Thank you guys for everything you do. I know it's been a crazy year, and I guess a lot of money is a good problem to have, but everyone's been working really hard, and there's confusing times, and we really appreciate you.
For sure. Well, I hope y'all have a great week. I look forward to talking to you next Friday, and have a good weekend.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.